I'm wifey and your baby mama. No drama, no drama. I'm baby mama, your wifey. No drama, no drama. We're family, 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 family. Yes.
Hey, I'm Sean,
Hi, and I'm Shannon.
and we're the hosts of Wifey and Baby Mama. Happy Thursday, family. Welcome to week
Yes,
3 of season 4. Yes, ma'am. Tonight, we will get
welcome.
into welcome all. We will get into one of our more serious titles for this episode we've had on this podcast. But we felt it's absolutely necessary to discuss for two reasons. One, our first 2 weeks were on the importance of actions and language. Loud Love and Speak My Language with the first two titles. And these topics where we touched on the words that you and your partner should speak to each other that displays love between you, for your children to see, actually for the world to see, right? This week we
Hmm.
want to follow up with an episode that lands on the other side of those titles because y'all know we like to hit it from every angle. So we appropriately, I think, titled tonight's episode "When Love Makes You an Unexpected Victim." We're going to touch on that, how words and action can be harmful, to the point that it's either ruining lives or bringing down spirits. So, Shannon, you remember in episode 1 or 2, you almost said something to that effect. And I was like, wait,
Hmm.
wait, wait,
Hmm.
that's coming up. And we don't want to backtrack.
Yeah,
So, tonight,
yeah, yeah.
you can unload, girlfriend, and you can let us know how impact on our words can have, you know, a devastating impact on our relationship. So, the floor is yours if you want to continue it. If you remember your point, I know we have a lot going on
Yeah, no.
during the week.
I don't remember what I almost let slip.
It's all right. Maybe it'll come to you as the episode
Yeah,
unfolds.
yeah,
But anyways,
yeah.
now, as with any or most of our episodes, guys, we can relate or we know someone that can relate to this, or else we wouldn't be able to give you this advice if we haven't either been through it or seen it up close and personal. So, from our experiences we have, to back up what we're saying, unfortunately, for tonight, for me at least, that's no exception. Love has
Hmm.
unfortunately made me an unexpected victim more times than I care to count, from allowing men to cheat because we think, as long as he keeps coming back, he loves me. I know I'm the number one,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
denying ourselves finer things in life because that's going to make him or her feel like, oh, they're unworthy, or that's this type of clothing will make him feel like someone's going to look at me, that complements our
Hmm.
figure. So we keep ourselves almost in a bottle because that insecure partner can be triggered. I mean, there's so many things that
Right,
falls in this category, Shannon, and those are
right.
just a
Yeah.
few that made me feel that unexpected victim.
Hmm.
I mean, I say victim because narcissists and gaslighters, they use these kind of things to keep us under control. Have you ever been in similar
Hmm.
situations, Shannon, or one maybe I didn't mention?
Oh yeah, yeah. When it comes to like verbal abuse and physical abuse, I've been through those. Um, and even stuff that I didn't even recognize as emotional abuse, where someone just manipulates you. When I was young,
Right,
um, you can definitely be gaslit and people can tell young people a lot of things. Well, I don't know about the young people nowadays. Some of them are way ahead of where I was,
true,
because I didn't grow up grown, so to speak. I meet so many young people now that, I'm amazed. They blow my mind. I'm like, are you really 20 years old? Because when I
right,
was 20, I probably had the mentality of a 14-year-old
right.
because I grew up sheltered. I grew up um, on the prairie. My life
Mm-hmm.
in South Dakota was I wasn't an inner city kid. I didn't know anything about nothing. So when I did get to a quote unquote city, and started dating and dealing with people, I was very, very easily manipulated, and people could tell me things that um, I allowed to sway me different ways. And I remember my first relationship where there was some physical abuse, you know.
Mhm.
And when I tell people this story today, they're like, "No, not you," because they know a different Shannon today. It's like, "Girl, I know you would have done this or that or whatever if you were this person today." But back then, I would fight. Now, I wasn't one of those to go crawl in a corner. I don't know where that came from. I don't know where that pushback came from because I was never one. You weren't going to slap me and me go run off or go
Right.
walk away. Oh, it was going to be
Right.
on like, two
Right.
dudes. But um to allow that though, to be
To
in
can
that
to stay
and
after that. To continue to
yes,
stay after that.
exactly.
Uh-huh, I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
That's what you
Yeah.
mean. But and not that
Mhm.
we are shaming people who don't, because some people, because they're sheltered, because they don't have the energy, because they're smaller, they can't fight back. And this is men
Right.
and women. This can fall on either
Oh,
side of the
yeah.
coin. We
Oh,
both
yeah.
know, especially in the career I'm in. I've been in law
Mhm.
enforcement, I've been in civil service, I've been in social work almost 20
Mhm.
years now. So I've
Yeah.
seen it on both sides of the coin. The men are victim of
Mhm.
abuse just like women. I don't want to
Yep.
mistake people by saying, oh, if you stayed, you're a coward. No, sometimes that's all we know to do. And like you said, that's why we say
Right.
unexpected victim. Some people
Mhm.
choose to stay in it, okay? Some people have no choice. And our topic
Mhm.
tonight, we're not so necessarily talk about domestic violence. That's a whole different beast, that
Yeah.
I thankfully can't touch on because I wasn't
Right.
a victim of domestic violence because I'm too violent. It would have
Mhm.
probably been a murder case.
Yeah.
So I thank God he never put me in that situation. But still, abuse is abuse, and we like to just make that
Yeah.
clear. And for those
Yeah.
domestic violence victims out there, I'm thankful they have so many programs and issues. But
Mhm.
that's something that's very close to home. I've had my family members murdered in domestic violence. We touched on this a few times in
Mhm.
episodes of getting away from violent men. So we'll leave that
Mhm.
because I we purposely don't touch that because it's so triggering. And
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
we just like to say, if you can get out, do, and if you can't, seek out help because there's so many resources that people didn't have back in the day. But getting back to what I just really want to make that clear because that's just a whole different
Mhm.
beast. We're saying unexpected victim for people like us who chose to stay in that mess. And we know we should have been gone
Mhm.
just for the sake of love.
Right.
So I want to be
Yeah.
clear and
Yeah.
get that type. I want to
Yeah.
make that clear tonight. I don't want anyone to write in and be like, hey, you guys were cruel or insensitive. No, we're not speaking
E
on domestic violence.
exactly.
That's a
Yeah.
different beast.
Yeah.
And when I say
And
beast,
even
beast.
yeah, in any type of abusive relationship, whether it's domestic, emotional,
Right.
verbal, or whatever, however you get out or don't, we're not here we're
No,
not
not at all.
counselors, we're not,
Nope. Doctors.
doctors, none of that. So there's no way we could tell you how to resolve
Proceed.
anything that you
Resolve
may
or
or
proceed
may
in those
not
type
be
of
in.
relationships.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
We're just coming to you from, things that we've experienced and what we've been through and
As mature
or
women,
people that
what we
we
went through
know.
as immature girls. Yeah. But what I
Yes,
went to as a
exactly.
mature, immature
Yeah,
girl, a young
yeah.
lady, as mature women,
Mhm.
now how I should have and would have handled that different. And Shannon, to touch on what you said
Right,
about you being
right.
sheltered. Now, I was far from sheltered. As
Mhm.
y'all know from my life, from my book, I
Right.
was around the way, girl, baby. I was outside
Yeah.
from the ghetto on all sides of the street. I was out there. Here's the thing. No one taught me any better. So when you're not
Mm.
getting the love you need at home, you
Mhm.
look for it
Mhm.
anywhere. Anywhere. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's
Yeah.
found in the face of a monster or an abuser or a
Right.
narcissist. So in
Right.
my case, like I said, never really was domestic. I mean, although I've had my fights. Oh baby, I've had my share.
Mhm.
After a while, I'm just
Mhm.
like, you know what? I'm better than this. I'm gone. And that's what
Right.
differs what we're talking about in domestic violence and
Mhm.
unexpected victims because domestic violence, you have no choice. No one chooses to be beat
Yeah.
down and stuff like that. In our
Yeah.
cases, we stayed with these men thinking, oh, yeah, we fought, but he loved me. So every time we fight, that means he loved me
Mm.
because he's fighting me. Bull.
Right.
It's wrong,
Right.
it's unnecessary, and it's unhealthy.
Mhm.
And that's what
Yep.
we want you guys to know tonight. So,
And
love,
to
like I said,
understand.
go ahead and to understand. And
Mhm.
for me, like I said, those are the things that narcissists and gaslighters. So these are triggers and warnings that we tell people early on to get out of it. So if you see this behavior early on, that's not a relationship you need to be in. Now, I will
No.
say this. My most hurtful of them all was verbal abuse. Because, like I said, physically, I could fight. So
Oh,
he
yeah.
really didn't have nothing
Mhm.
coming physically. I don't like it. And I'll tell you, like, don't put your hands on me.
Mhm.
But then I'll turn around
Mhm.
and punch you in your face. So now we got to fight anyway.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
had to learn to keep my hands to myself because that's not a form of
Mhm.
love. And if you get angry, walk away. Those are things I have to tell myself. But the verbal
Mhm.
abuse that I experienced, I think was way worse than any of the physical. And I talk about my me being a verbal abuser myself. Is why I wanted to wait
Mhm.
tonight to discuss. I touched on that in a couple of other, the episodes up front.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
earlier in the season. But the last episode, that's what I was talking about. That's what taught me or made me understand how wrong my verbal abuse was when my ex-husband
Mhm.
said how that pain I projected on him made him feel. And I'm like, man, that's really messed up. And when I found myself back in this relationship, Shannon, with, Jimmy to be remarried, I found myself changed because of the way I treated Chris, and I did not want to display that, right?
Right.
But
Right.
now Jimmy's coming with the mouth and the abuse and the harmful words, and I'm like,
Mhm.
well, maybe I deserve this because of what I did in our last relationship and how I hurt him. And I
Mm-mm.
allowed that mess to go on for a couple of years. And I finally said,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
I was convinced that it was my fault because my past warranted me allowing this. Like, it's just words. Like, if that's what it takes to
Mhm.
make him feel better, no, how is it really hurting you? Well, you know what? It did hurt me. And when it got to the point
Mhm.
where my children were hearing it, like, Mom, you tripping. Like, why you be letting him say it? I'm like, well, he's just in pain. He's had a lot of abuse himself with the world, the way his life was, not so much as at home, but from, being
Mhm.
incarcerated or whatever. The world, being a black
Mhm.
man is abusive sometimes. Like just the world abuses you.
Mhm.
And then so
Mhm.
I gotta absorb that. The hell. I do not. I do not.
Mm.
So,
No, you
women,
don't.
please don't allow yourself, or men for that matter, don't allow
Right.
yourself to absorb any abuse, physically or verbally, because you think you deserve it. Because I'm telling you,
Right.
you do not. But only maturity and age make me say enough, Shannon. Like, come on, like seriously, it's
Mhm.
enough.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we had to have that conversation, and we had to go to counseling, and we had to do a whole lot of stuff.
Mhm.
But you know what?
Mhm.
In the end, I had to decide I'm worth more than that. I made
Yeah.
myself a victim by not realizing I didn't deserve that.
Mhm. Right. And there are times, when we're in, both of us being married or even before we were married, being in certain relationships where you're in an argument and people, throw insults when they're angry. Um and some of them can cut like we kind of touched or did touch on last week. Some of them
Mhm.
can cut. But when it's a normal day. It's a regular sunny day and you're rolling down the street, windows down, music blaring, just having a good time, and something comes out of nowhere, sucker punch because of something that they're going through.
Mhm.
Or they might uh, for example, you might say, "Hey, I think I want to go hang with Sean Saturday night." And they're like, no, I don't want you hanging anywhere. And then the name calling just comes out of nowhere because whatever, you know, those situations to me, are very damaging to a lot of young girls because they look at, oh, you don't want me to be away from you because you love me, or you
Yep.
want me by your side
Yep.
24/7. They look at that as
Mhm.
love versus control and abuse, but
Absolutely.
that is abuse.
It
And
is.
being in
And
that type of relationship, which in my 20s I was in one where they're like, yeah, no, you're not going here, you're not going there, and then the negative name calling comes out of nowhere. Not saying I'm excusing the name calling and all that when you're in an argument, but when you're in an argument and you're doing all of this, you can go sit down with a therapist and say, hey, let's kind of work this through. But when it comes out of nowhere, from my experience, there might be people who can go to therapy and get over that type of stuff, but it's so much deeper. And how, unless you're, I don't know, got a ring on your finger, how much work do you want to put into, helping someone that's doing that
when you
out of
see
the
that out of
blue
the beginning,
sucker
Shannon,
punch?
I'm
Yes.
gonna tell you, in the
Oh.
beginning, I don't think it's
Mm.
worth the work. In the beginning, honey, in the
Yeah.
beginning,
Yeah.
if that means you
Mhm.
brought that with you, and I'm gonna need you to go on.
Yeah,
We both talked about
exactly.
assignments, and I think we both talked
Mm,
about assignments. And baby, I definitely
yeah,
was on assignment in this marriage. You understand me?
yeah,
But I
yeah.
understood my assignment was getting my husband to be a calmer person. My
Mm,
assignment was getting him to Christ. My assignment was getting him to realize the things that God have done. My assignment was showing him
mhm.
me. Like, hey, if I can change, buddy, you
Yeah.
can change. Because
Oh,
I think
yeah. Yeah.
honey, I was tough. I was one of the worst when it came to this mouth and the fighting, baby. So I think that was my assignment. It wasn't like you said, Shannon, out of the blue,
Mhm.
just punching me. And, again,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah,
not making
yeah.
excuses, but I'm gonna tell y'all 9 times out of 10, I'm setting it off. I start the fights.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
like I was like, oh, abuse. I was a helpless little. No, baby, this mouth was
Mhm,
vicious and these hands is
mhm,
vicious. So
mhm.
after I stopped though, and then I calmed down and I'm like, okay, you need to change. And he's not changing. I'm like, oh, buddy, hey, hey, we got a problem.
Right,
Because if I can do it,
right,
you can do it.
right.
So
Yeah,
again, those are things after
yeah.
20 some 15, 10 years of knowing each other, we
Mhm.
realize like we gotta work on this thing. And let me tell you something, Shannon, our love didn't start that way. Okay? Our love
Yeah.
started beautiful. Our love started
Mhm.
like days, roses, and that's how it should start.
Mhm.
It's after
Yeah,
children.
yeah.
It's after life, death. It's at the death of parents and siblings. It's at the children that all of these things start, and you become different people. And now we got to readjust. We got to go back and start
Right,
over again. But
right.
love shouldn't start that way. When you together 20,
Exactly.
30 years, I think we said this before too, Shannon. No one has been married over 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, 50. Nobody's celebrating those kind of anniversaries without some heartaches, baby, and some
That's right.
punches
That's
blown or some
right.
harsh words.
Yeah, yeah.
Please don't miss us there. And guess
Mhm.
what? It may be a select few. I've heard older people say, man, we've never said a bad word to each other.
Oh, yeah, I
Because it
have
is
too.
that kind of
Mm.
love out there. So don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. And I don't
Mhm.
know, Shannon, and I don't want to misspeak or oh, I ain't Dr. Phil or nobody. I know everything. But I just want to say, out of, not from experience, but just from my mind and just from my view of love, I think if we start out with the right person, Shannon, you can have that kind of
Mhm.
relationship. I
That's
think it's
true.
when
Yeah,
you've been
yeah,
through so much and when you
yeah.
fight, when you got to fight for love, that's when all this
Mm.
other turmoil and stuff come in. I just
Mhm.
honestly believe that. But I think if you get with that one
Yeah.
person like you're supposed to have, and and this is just my person, and some people meet at 8 years old, 18, and they just love each other. And those are the people that will more than likely tell you, we've never had a bet because they've been on the right path from
Mhm.
go.
Mhm.
Sometimes when we're
Right.
fighting from the
Yeah.
back of the bus to the front, that's when you fall a lot. And that's when the turmoil. And not
Right.
that it can't
Yeah.
work. I just think it's more work, Shannon. To me, that's
Exactly.
my opinion.
Exactly. And like you
Than just
said, a minute ago about, seeing stuff up front, you don't have a chance to build any type of foundation when it's already you're on rocks from the start and you're
that's right.
ignoring stuff. And we've all heard the saying a million times, when people show you who they are, you better believe
Believe
them,
in
blah,
the
blah, blah.
first time.
And yeah, yeah. And of course, sometimes it's like, talking to a wall when you hear that or you tell that to people, because they want what they want. People want what they
That's right.
want. And they're
That's
like,
right.
yeah, I know I'm seeing all of this stuff, but I can change them. Everyone
That's right.
believes that to their core. And maybe in some cases you can, depending on what the problem is. Some problems are
Right.
too deep rooted, and you may not know that going in. You're brand new to the situation, so you don't know how deep that root is. And so if you think, oh, you can go in and change this person, and then when you can't, and it ends up turning into something that you're so damaged. And when they say hurt people,
Mhm. It's a
now
fact.
you're walking away determined to inflict whatever harm has
Harm
come
was
on
put on
you
you
onto other
unto
people.
somebody else. It's a
Yeah,
fact.
yeah.
It's a fact.
And it's so
And
easy to do.
it is. And I'm going to say
Mm,
something here to that point. When I first met Jimmy, we had a beautiful relationship. And I seriously knew from the day that I met him and that we spent time together that I would love him the rest of my life. Now, I didn't know we'd be married or, whatever, but I knew he
mhm,
was somebody like that would be around in my life for a while. I didn't know he'd be my kid's
mhm,
father. Like I said, I didn't know. But after I saw signs of cheating constantly and abuse. He was never abused. Like I said, I was usually the one starting
Mhm.
fights, so he was never the one to just
Mhm.
punch me or do anything to me like that.
Right,
But
right.
just verbal abuse. He was a verbal. Like if he couldn't have his way, or if I wouldn't fall for his lies, he would get mad and he would get angry,
Mhm.
and that was all a form of freaking abuse. But
Oh
at the
yeah.
same
Yeah.
time, I'm telling young people, you should have walked away. I think honestly,
Yeah.
if I would know what I know now, I wouldn't have stayed with
Mhm.
him. I don't think
Mhm.
I would have had a kid for him. It wouldn't have lasted that long.
Mhm.
But when I look at this side of it, I realize that I still was supposed to be his wife. But what I should have
Yeah.
did, I should have walked. I'm going to say this. What I could have saved him and me a lot of heartache and drama
Mhm.
if I would have walked away early on and let him get himself together versus trying to stay with him and force him to be the man he should have been.
Mhm.
Because let me tell you why. Jimmy did not become the man he should have been until Jimmy was ready to. It didn't matter how many
Right.
fights we had. It doesn't matter
Right.
how many kids we had. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what kind of sex we had or kind of
Mhm.
gifts we bought each
Mhm.
other. Until he was
Mhm.
ready to become a man, he didn't. So,
Yeah.
ladies, I'm not telling you
Yeah.
that you missed the mark, or gentlemen, I'm not telling you that your wife or husband shouldn't be, or if you feel that, it may be true, maybe wrong time. So that's what
Mhm.
I want to make clear because I'm going to tell you, I know Jimmy would say the same thing. I don't think we would have put up with each other's mess this long if we would have known. Just in later on, it gets greater. When you mature and when you get older, we could have came back, but
Yeah.
we actually stayed through all those years of hell because we were
Mhm.
determined not to give up on each other. But
Mhm.
had we just went away our separate ways and healed, I think it would have been so much better. So we're not
Right.
telling you that what you choose or who you choose is not it. Maybe not right now. And I'm gonna tell you it never is it a right time for abuse, verbal or
That's
otherwise.
right. That's right. Verbal, emotional, physical, but physical, that's like a no-brainer. But more people stay in the emotional and verbal
More than
situations
they
to
will than the
where
physical.
exactly, and not
Because they
understanding
don't
what
think it's
that's
not so bad.
doing.
Yeah.
Exact
To their
right. It's not
ego,
that
to their
bad. It's so
spirits.
good. Yeah, their
Yeah.
mental state and you know, look how many people commit suicide and not saying all of them are due to relationships or anything like that, but it's so much easier to go down that path if someone has broken you down mentally you've allowed
Yep.
someone to cause you mental harm. um
And it
why
ends in
would you?
you doing physical harm to yourself.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
I think
Yeah. Yeah.
if it's okay, yeah, Shannon, go ahead, finish that point, and I'm gonna
Oh
wrap up
no,
because this
that's
is where we at. That's a good
yep.
place to
Nope.
wrap.
That's where
So
we're at.
yep,
Mhm.
I didn't want to jump off because I want to end up tonight by saying like no amount of love is worth abuse, be it physical or verbal.
Mhm.
No one deserves that, right?
Right.
And if you
Right.
can't express loud love or in the right language, if you can't come to a place where we can talk to each other nicely and that's enough, then that may not be the relationship for you. And you know what? Ask me how I know. Because even though my husband
Mhm.
was very angry and hard to deal with, and he was abusive and very abusive verbally at times. When I expressed how that made me feel, he loved me enough to correct his actions. So I know
Mhm.
it can be done. So if someone
Yeah.
continues to do that to you, they don't love you. Bottom
Right.
line, they don't even love
Bottom
themselves.
line.
But my
Mhm.
husband cared enough to correct his actions so that and he was a hard man his whole life. Shannon, you have a
Mhm.
kid with him.
Oh yeah.
Jimmy was
Oh
not always
yeah.
the easiest person to deal with, but he
No.
corrected his
Not at all.
actions because his
Mhm.
love for me, it meant enough for him
Mhm.
to straighten himself up to keep his love for me. And that I will honor for the
Yeah.
rest of my life. Because some people don't change because their pride and
Right.
egos is worth more than what you feel. So I'm not comparing my relationship to anyone else's in the world. I
Mhm.
simply want to make the correlation that if someone loves you, they'll do the work to make themselves better.
They'll do the work. Yep. Yep.
So that's our wrap up
And
for
that's what
tonight. So
relationships are about. Yeah,
doing
doing
the work,
work.
doing the work.
Period.
It's like a
Both
job. We talk
sides do
about
the
that all
work.
the time. Both sides do the work, just like a job.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And we didn't touch on, I know we just did our wrap up, but we want to make sure too, like we bring this in almost every show. Think about the kids. and what they're witnessing
Well,
when
yeah,
you're
I hit
going
on
through
that.
a
I
lot
hit
of
on
these
that a little bit.
situations.
I hit on that.
Yeah,
I just talked.
a little. Yeah,
I
yeah.
talk so much you probably missed that part. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's definitely important. You no, but I'm glad you
Yeah,
reiterated.
yeah.
I'm glad you
Mhm.
reiterated because it's definitely
Yeah,
that's
don't forget
probably
the
the most
kids.
important part. If
Mhm.
you can't walk away from
Yeah,
yourself, definitely walk away
yeah.
from the kids. That's a very good point, Shannon. And I'm happy that
Mhm.
you throw that in there right at the end. So if nothing else register on your brain tonight, keep that in mind, especially when children are involved. If you can't
That's
walk away from
right.
you, if you can't do better for you, and a niece of mine would always tell me that when I called her about, girl, we did, oh, I'm so tired. She's like, I know you're strong enough to keep hanging on, but think about your
Mhm.
children. And once I thought about
Mhm.
my kids, that was enough for me to say, hey, we can't keep doing this to these kids, man. I'm tough.
Right.
I'm tough as nails. I can handle it. But those kids
Yeah.
don't have a choice. They didn't ask to be in this
No.
kind of environment. And we
No.
sat down and we made a loving environment for them. And thank you, God. To God be the glory. They have a loving environment now. They probably look at us like these two
Mhm.
aliens that took off our parents because we taking it outside now, or
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
don't do it
Yeah.
anymore. And
Right.
again, if it could
Right.
be done, if you wanted to.
Mhm. It can be done. Yes.
All right, sweetie. Well, if that's all you
All
have,
right.
we'll go on to
That's
our
it.
next segment.
Okay.
All right. So tonight we're into our sweet little lies segment. And this
Uh-huh.
is an interesting one tonight, y'all. It comes from a daughter of a mom who had a sexual encounter with her boyfriend, her mom's boyfriend. Now, it was
Oh,
it was consensual. They were both adults, but it didn't really
okay.
bother her until he proposed to her mother. Now, at that point, she took offense because she figured
Oh.
he shouldn't have continued the relationship. Although she continued to go
Mm.
around and, with her family, her mom, and now stepdad, it didn't really bother her. But once he proposed, then married her, now she cut off her relationship and with her mom and the stepfather. And I think,
Oh.
not to be judgmental, but I think that's really unfair for her to do to mom like that because the mom is she's an unexpected victim in this situation, right?
Exactly. Yes, she
But
is.
at the
Yeah.
end of her sweet little lie, she wanted to know, should she come clean with the mother or just pretend it never happened and keep her distance? Now, baby mama, I'm not going to touch that one, right?
Mm.
But I think the only thing I want to say is if you were going to say something, you should have did that and cleared the air a long time ago. So at this point, I take it to the grave. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything at all, but I would mend my relationship with my mother. Yeah, I don't need a relationship with him, but I definitely wouldn't keep my mother at a distance because, like you just said, she's an unexpected victim. She don't know nothing. She don't
Right.
understand, what the issue is and yeah, there's no need to bring it to her attention because there's no need to hurt her at this point.
That's right.
Um, that what
And
benefit, what good are you
what
doing
you
her
have to
by
tell,
telling her?
right, tell him. I,
Mhm.
I want to touch this and make it clear. It was one time. And it
Okay.
was one time. It was a one-time thing. I do want to say that was important for me to say because it wasn't a continuing thing. But she's uncomfortable around the man.
Mm.
So my thing is, I would probably just find a way to tell mom, I just ain't feeling him. I don't think he's the person for you. But again, that's something I think that should have been
It's
done a
too
long time
late.
ago. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't touch it. I'm just sorry, I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm with you, Sean. I am definitely
Yeah,
with you. I wouldn't touch it. I'd leave that alone and let them live in peace and wedded bliss or whatever, however, whatever path they end up on. Um,
that's right.
I would just repair my relationship with my mom, make sure we're good and there are no issues there. But mm,
Yeah, that was a
yeah.
tough one. I said, "Ooh, boy." But yeah.
Hmm.
So that's our
Hmm.
sweet little lie for tonight, Shannon.
Yeah, sweet little
That's one that
lie
would
you
definitely
carry
go
to
to
the
my grave,
grave.
though. I think that one have to
Yeah.
go to my grave,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. Good one, Sean. And if you all have
Thank you.
one,
They can
what do
send it
they
to
need to
wifey
do?
and baby mama at gmail. I don't know why. I think I'm so distraught about y'all killing my music, about y'all killing my artist invite. I ain't gonna be the same, y'all. I don't know about this. I gotta pray about it. So if you
Yeah.
have a sweet little lie that you would like to just, and
Yeah.
again, maybe even if you don't tell anyone, maybe just her writing that got it off her chest. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
just saying it. No, we don't know who she is.
Mhm.
We don't know what state, country
Mhm.
she lives in. Maybe sometimes
Right.
just saying stuff to another person or hearing, maybe just what Shannon and
Mhm.
I said could just help. Maybe they can't
Yeah.
tell anyone close to them. Of course, obviously, I would never tell a soul that. But Shannon and I
Right.
have no idea who that is. So maybe just
Yeah.
hearing that
Yeah.
and hearing our opinion can offer some relief or just make you feel better. So if you would
Mhm.
like a chance to get it off your chest, if it's just a sweet little lie that's going to make us all laugh, whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
you can send your
Mhm.
submissions to wifeyandbabymama@gmail.com. And that's wifeyandbabymama@gmail.com. Thank you, Shannon. I don't know why I can't get it together. I'm going to try next week to get it together. I'm distraught. But
You're you're good. We're good.
on to our next segment.
All right, on to our next and final segment of the night. It is the fictional family we feel, fire, or forget. And this week, to kind of align with our topic, I'm going way back again. I know last week I went all the way back to the 70s. I'm going back again to the bunkers. Archie
Edith.
and Edith Bunker.
Edith was my
All in
girl.
family. I know. Um, so Archie, difficult dude, in this day and age, Archie would would be canceled. Um, because of, his views, he was a racist, he was all these things, but the way he talked to Edith, oh my gosh, he always called her a dingbat. He
Hmm.
always talked down to her. He was verbally abusive to her on a daily basis. Every episode. Every now and again, you'll see some little spark of love, but it's like, really, is that enough for y'all to really be in this? Um, uh, and she never had a harsh word. Or if she did, it might be some little passive aggressive something, she kind of throw in there. But even that was few and far and rare or whatever. Um, so watching her each week for young girls, imagine the girls watching that growing up back in the day. You can imagine why so many people who may have thought that was a normal marriage, that was a normal
Hmm.
household, to see a man call his woman a dingbat and all kind of call her stupid and crazy, whatever he called her all the time. No one saw any harm in that. I didn't. When I
Right.
saw it every now and again, I didn't watch it that often. And because I didn't watch it that often, this is one of the families I just want to forget. I don't even need to fire them because I love Edith so much. So I definitely don't want to fire the fictional family, but I can forget them because it's not something I love to watch. It's not
Right.
something I want to go back and watch reruns on. So, in my opinion, I say let's just forget the bunkers. I don't know how you feel, Sean.
I'm gonna fire him. For the simple reason is I don't want to watch reruns. I
Yeah.
don't want to tell no. I don't want a kid to think that Edith,
Yeah.
a young lady to think that Edith is an example of what we should be doing to hang on to our love.
Mhm.
So because
Mhm.
Archie was so terrible, Edith ain't worth hanging
Yeah.
on to because she should let him go
Oh,
too.
Lord.
So in
Oh,
my
Lord.
opinion,
Oh,
I'm going
Lord.
to fire them. Sorry, but not
All
sorry.
right.
That's my opinion.
Poor, poor Edith. You just threw her away too. All right, Edith. All right. So they are fired and we're forgetting them. So that is there, there you have it. That
There
is
you
the
have it.
fictional family we feel, fire, or forget for this week. So that is it for this night's episode, and we appreciate you all joining us once again. Sorry, I'm stumbling all over my words tonight, but we do appreciate you all for listening and accepting us for being real and who we are, whether we're stuttering, stumbling, and sputtering or whatever we do. Um, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you all. And until next week.
Bye.
I'm waiting.